Arcane is one of the most popular TV shows right now, and I'm not really surprised. I've personally never watched it because I've heard it's super sad, but I really think I should give it a try because the art style is absolutely stunning. So even if you haven't watched this show, that's literally some of the prettiest animations I've ever seen. And it's also one of the most expensive animated shows ever made with like a reported production cost of over $250 million. But I'm really not that surprised because it must have taken a lot of time and a lot of animators to create something like that. And I've been seeing a lot of beautiful fan arts all over Pinterest and YouTube and like artists doing style studies. So that's what I kind of decided to do for this video. To start off, I wanted to go over a couple things I've noticed by looking at the scenes in the show. Firstly, Arcane uses a very geometric style, which is super similar to the art you see in the Spider-Verse movies. And if you put the two side by side, you can kind of see what I mean. The color selections are almost the same with bright, exaggerated blues and pinks, and a perfect combination between highly rendered areas and very simplistic shapes. Arcane also uses something called the Asaro head to draw most of its characters, and this is basically an anatomical model that separates the face into different planes and leaves the shadows mostly blocky to exaggerate this feature. And another important aspect to look at is the use of realism. Although this is an animated show, the creators have added realistic makeup, dark circles, wrinkles, and scars, and I think it adds so much to the characters themselves and makes them look a lot more interesting. And my last observation before moving into the actual study is Arcane's use of hard edges. So originally, when I started my drawing, I used my normal Procreate brush, which is linked in the description by the way, and it's kind of really soft and has a lot of texture to it. But then I quickly realized that this was a mistake because in the show, most of the shapes are super blocky and rough. So I switched my brush halfway into the drawing and I switched it to something more suitable for the study. And I also linked that specific brush in the description if you want to check it out yourself. And now I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I did in my actual drawing so you can get a better idea. So I'm going to be drawing Jinx, as you can see, and basically what I did for the sketch was I got a bunch of reference images of Jinx, and I also got a pose that I really liked on Pinterest, and kind of did a really messy sketch. And the reason it's super messy is actually intentional because I wanted to render this drawing, which means not using line art, because I really felt like the creators of Arcane didn't use like a solid line art type of style, even though the characters were super defined, and I wanted to keep this consistent. So as you can see, I'm kind of layering colors in like a blocky way, if that makes sense. So I'm not really blending out the shadows, and this is a step that I usually do in my art anyways before I start blending to really define where the lighting's coming from. But in this drawing, I'm not gonna blend it to keep it true to the original style. And for the layers in this drawing, I first made a layer under the sketch layer and blocked in all of the base colors. And then after that, I merged the two together and then rendered on a single layer for the entire drawing. So while I was drawing this, I was originally gonna copy a scene from a movie, but then I decided to kind of do my own pose. And I really felt like it would have been better, like if any of you guys want to do this study on your own or try to draw in Arcane style, first try drawing a scene in the movie so you can kind of color drop the exact colors and kind of see exactly how it's supposed to look before you draw your own thing. And the reason for this is when I got to the clothes in the middle of the video, I really felt like I had to make up my own references because there weren't really references for that specific angle of a pose that I was drawing. So if you want to study this on your own, just pick a scene from a movie. I feel like it's the easiest way to really understand the style better. So for the hair, I thought it was actually really easy, which is a weird thing for me to say because I'm not a fan of drawing hair of any sort. And the reason for this is I think Arcane hair is split into two separate parts when you're drawing it. The first part is just the base colors. So as you can see, Jinx in this picture only uses maybe 4 shades of blue for her entire hair, but it looks like a lot more than that because of the way that they do it. And I picked a mid-tone kind of blue color to be my entire base. So that way there was a lighter blue color and a darker blue color that I could use for the shadows and the lighting. And I kind of started blocking out where I thought it would be. And it didn't have to be too accurate because I kind of blended it out in like later on in the video. And after that, I went in and made it a lot more accurate with like specific strands of hair and like things like that. But overall, it was just a lot of like mixing the different colors of blue together, and I really felt like it turned out really well. So I might like use this in my future videos when I'm drawing hair in general, because I felt like it was a lot of fun and I highly recommend it actually. So for the eyes, like a majority of this drawing and the hair, I chose a mid-tone color and then a lighter color and a darker color on either side of it. So that way I could have the shadows and the highlights without it being like black and white. And for this entire drawing, I didn't use pure white or pure black for any of it, because I really felt like if you're able to manipulate the colors so that you give like the illusion that it is white even though it isn't, it looks a lot better than just using white. And I would use this tip for any type of drawing that you do, not just Arcane. And the reason for this is because pure white and pure black are like best saved for things where you want to make it pop out. Like if you're drawing a candle, for example, you want the center of the candle to be pure white so it look like it's glowing. But if you use white anywhere else in your drawing, it won't give the same effect. And yeah. So another thing I want to add was when I was coloring the skin, I used a really dull kind of brown color for the shadow. But then in between the skin that wasn't in the shadow and that was in the shadow, I used a really bright orange color and kind of blended it out between the two. And this not only adds to the blocky effect because it creates kind of like a border, but it also makes it look like the skin is in sunlight. And I think this is really cool because it adds to like the realistic element of Arcane that I mentioned earlier, and it just makes everything like pop up a bit more instead of having it all like really desaturated and dull. So here you can kind of see I was trying to be super detailed with her braids, but I decided that was the wrong way to go because since this was kind of like a zoomed out version of her and the reference I was looking at was kind of zoomed in, I feel like it made it look like really overly rendered. And that's the thing that I really like about Arcane, is that they balance it really well. So when you see a character from far away, they're mostly like just shapes and colors, but if you get closer you can actually see all the features. And I tried to keep this consistent with my art as well. So that's why you'll see me later in the video kind of simplify the braid a bit more. And also I was getting kind of lazy at this point, but I guess it worked out. But this drawing was literally 4 hours long, and I don't know why, because I really feel like it didn't feel like it was 4 hours long, but at the same time I could kind of tell that I was taking too long. And the reason for this is I made a lot of mistakes when I was studying this style. Like I said earlier, I had to like switch my brush halfway and like redo some parts of her hair that I spent a while on. And I really feel like this is like part of the learning process. Like you're gonna have to like spend some time if you want to learn a style. And I think it turned out all right in the end, but yeah. So at this point of the drawing, I was kind of trying to define all the shadows that I placed earlier and make it look a lot more blocky and animated. So I think I should say this, but I only used 3 layers for this entire drawing, and most of the drawing was on one singular layer. The other 2 were just multiply layers that I used for the clothing because I didn't want to have to individually pick colors myself. And I really felt like this made it a lot more easier for me, because I originally, like, I was planning to do this anyways, but I was kind of dreading it because I thought it would make it a lot more complicated. And if you've watched my other videos, you know I'm not really a fan of rendering. I mostly just do liner and then color it in after. But I really felt like this made it a lot more easier for me to study the style, because when I didn't like something, I could literally just draw on top of it, and this gave me a lot of freedom with my drawing too. And yeah, so when you're studying a style, it doesn't have to be too complicated, too fancy. You don't have to use way too many brushes. I'd say pick a brush and just stick with it for the entire drawing, and that's kind of what I did here. I only used like 2 brushes for this entire drawing, and I really feel like that makes the process less complicated, so that you can focus on the specific techniques that the person used in the style you're studying instead of focusing on like oh, what brush should I use for this part or something? Because guarantee you can replicate most drawings with only a couple brushes. And yeah, that's my tips. Also, side note, if you like to use a lot of brushes or you like to do things a specific way, by all means do that. I'm not like a professional or something, so you don't have to like exactly follow what I'm saying. But these are just things that help me when I study styles, and yeah. So to finish up this drawing, I kind of just added like a little glitch effect and a little background, and I think it turned out pretty accurate to Arcane style. If you liked this video or if you learned something new, make sure to leave a like. And if you have any questions or don't understand something I said in this video, leave a comment and I'll definitely respond. And if you like my art, feel free to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.